Well, happy Father's Day indeed. I am now a happy grandfather. And the only problem with that is that our grandson is in New Zealand. He didn't run away, by the way. Um, his mother, our daughter, did. She ran away, got about as far away as from us as it would seem as she could, and married one of those Kiwi guys. And so since then, we've been going back and forth 84 times, I'm pretty sure. FaceTime, internet stuff, seeing each other has become addictive. And we have that relationship as grandma, grandfather. But it is a great day today to celebrate fathers. For the most part, we have all kinds of reasons to do that or not do that, as the case may be. But how many of you are fathers here besides me? You're a dad. Yeah, you can go ahead and put it up there. It's not. Don't be embarrassed. It's all right. Through the years, I've asked many fathers, have you been a good father? Have you been good? And what do you suppose their answer generally is? No one has ever answered directly, yes. No one, not one. I don't actually ask the question anymore because there's too much pressure, and I know it's going to be negative for them, and I don't want that for them. But every one of those guys I've asked has been equivocal, doubtful about his answer, and the average answer has been, well, it's been rather tepid, average. It's been this: I've been pretty average, better than some. Worse than some. I could have done better. I know. I could have done better. What got them was a sort of inner accountant. Do you have one of those? Kind of an inner accountant, which over many years had loaded them up, and many of us, with perceived failure, lack, shortcoming, and the cousin of failure, shame. I didn't do it. I should have. It's too late now. There was a sort of long-term inside disgrace that sort of muted them. It got them to be reserved in relationships, held back, not just with their sons. And of course, this isn't just dads. It's also moms. It's people that I'm talking about here. But today's Father's Day, so hey, they get credit. But it's this muted thing. It's reserved. They draw back because on the inside is this perceived failure and shame, and they're managing it. They're sort of aware of it, but not so much in a way that they'll talk about it, or that they'll lose it, or be happy or any. And so what do we do with our failure in relationships, perceived or otherwise? The long-term stuff that's built up over time, the stuff that we've learned to manage and just go about things as best we can now, because behind us, I'm lacking. I didn't do very well. So I want to take a look this morning at one of my favorite apostles, the Apostle Peter. What a great guy. What do we know about the Apostle Peter? What do we know about him? And I want to ask you this morning to raise your hand and tell us something you know about the Apostle Peter, something you go, God, he did this, he did that, he said this, he said that. Is there something that you could contribute this morning to this? Who was Peter? What do we know about him? Anybody raise your hand, tell me what it is. Yes. I'll think. Yeah, he was the first one to proclaim that Jesus was the Christ. Remember, Jesus says something to him like, hey, who do people say I am? And he goes, well, there's this list. There's these people. They're nuts. They're losers. And then Jesus says, well, what about you? Uh-oh. Well, I didn't know you were going to ask me. But he says, well, you're the Messiah. the one we've been expecting all this time. It's you. And Jesus is like, yeah, home run. And you didn't just figure that out. You didn't just make it up. The Father revealed that to you, and that is how it's going to work. By revelation of that truth. Yeah, that's one thing. How about somebody else? Peter, the Apostle Peter. Yes. Yeah, there was a bad day. There was a bad night where he denied or disowned. We'll get to that in just a minute. Jesus. It didn't go well. It wasn't a good look for Peter. And now it's in the history book. Well, there isn't one of those about me. Somebody else, something about the Apostle Peter. Yes. He was this rock. The way that he realized Jesus was the Messiah, Jesus says, that is how I'm building my church. The way you got that. You're the first one to get it, as my wife said. Thank you. That's how I'm building my church, is by this revelation of the truth. Yeah. Somebody else. Yes. Understated way to say it. For a brief time, he walked on water. It was brief, wasn't it? But he did it. He walked on the water, and there was a storm and such, and there were some other things that happened after that, but he walked on the water. He did it on top. Yeah. Somebody else. Peter. Yes. He was a little bit of a hothead. What? Yeah, impulsive. Yeah. Yeah, he was. Very, very impulsive. Bang. He was going to say what he thought. Yes. Anybody else? Yes. He felt that he was unclean. Yeah. Yeah. And that the Gentiles were unclean. He knew. So what did God do? Here, have a dream. It's going to scare the heck out of you, but you're going to quit calling the Gentiles dirty, because I'm making them clean through my sacrifice. Yeah, that's right. One more. There was one more. Someone had, yep. So, yeah, he's not always a hothead. Yeah, he wasn't. He was well-reasoned. He did some things that were like, oh, okay, you had a good thought about that, dude. Well done. Yeah. So we're gonna look in Matthew chapter 26, and in Matthew 26, there is a lot happens. Now, it's 4 miles long, that chapter. So we're not going to read the whole thing. Anybody say amen? Thank you. That was longer. That was louder than usual. Thank you. Yeah, we're not going to do that. So I'm going to sum up a little bit. But in Matthew chapter 26, which covers a lot of ground, there's a woman who pops in, and what does she do with a bunch of oil? And depending upon which version you have, it's either that on his feet, or another version that I like mostly is she poured it over his head. And the disciples are really receptive to that. No, they're not. They're kind of like, oh my gosh, you are messing with this whole plan. We were going to have dinner, and there's this mess. And Jesus ends up telling them, guys, she's actually preparing me for burial. How'd you like to have that at a party? That's what he tells them that, and it doesn't go over real well with them. So then, at the Last Supper, when they have that next, Jesus essentially says that young Judas will betray him. That's a good moment. And Judas even wants clarity, and he says, you're talking about me? And Jesus says, it's as you say. That's a good moment. That's a big one. That happens then. And then he talks about the new covenant in his blood, which you may know that the new covenant didn't start at his birth, but at his death, because that's how covenants always started. We talk about that quite a bit around here, which I'm glad about that. So that we know that all the promises were fulfilled, and then all that is new in the new covenant started because of his blood. And he explains that that's what's going to happen. And they're getting a little bit antsy. What are we talking about burial and blood for? I thought this was a party. This big dinner we're supposed to have, and it's not. They're not really enjoying themselves. And in Matthew chapter 26, we'll begin reading in verse 31. Then Jesus told them, this very night, guys, you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. That's, by the way, from the book of Zechariah. But after I've risen, I'll go ahead of you into Galilee. And Peter replied, here comes our boy. Peter replied, hey, that's I mean, it's a little license, but not much, to the hothead point. Hey, no way, it's not going to happen. Even if all of them fall away on account of you, I never will. Isn't that great? Thank you, Peter, for weighing in and commenting when I didn't ask a question. You didn't. It was just, here's how it's going to go. This is what's going to happen. And Peter pops off. Verse 34. Truly, I tell you, and by the way, the word you is singular, not everybody, but just Peter. The Apostle Peter, I'm talking to you now. So you can imagine he's looking right at him. Truly, I tell you, Jesus answered, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me. You'll disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. What's he telling Jesus? You're wrong. This is a great moment for Peter. I know you're God and everything, but let me just tell you, you're wrong. Have you ever done that with God? I have. I don't like this. You're wrong about this. I don't want it. That's our boy Peter. And all the disciples chipped in with the same thing. Yeah, no, you're wrong. Nope. Stay right here, having dinner, going to go the whole way. Never deny you, never disown you, no way. And then comes the prayer time in the Garden of Gethsemane. Remember how that went? Jesus takes Peter and the sons of Zebedee, the sons of thunder, James and John, says, let's go pray. So they go away to a little bit distance from the rest of the disciples, and Jesus starts to pray, and what do the disciples do? What does Peter do? I think I'm going to go to sleep. So he does. He goes to sleep. Jesus comes back after a while and goes, hey, you guys are sleeping? What's wrong with that? And then he goes back to pray some more. He comes back again. What happens? They're asleep again. And he does it a 3rd time. And they're not doing very well. Peter's, the great guy. I'm the one you want to pattern all your people over. And Jesus is like, okay, you're asleep again. This is really going great. So then Judas and a band of angry men come to betray and arrest Jesus. But before that happens, what does Peter do? Hey, there's this unruly mob. I know what I'll do. I'm going to take a sword, and here, come close. I'm going to go for your head. Oh, I missed. I cut off your ear. That's Peter. That's our guy. So, of course, they don't take well to that. So Jesus kind of goes, hey, I need to calm the situation because there's something happening here bigger than all this. He takes the ear. What does he do with it? He didn't put it in the baggie. What did he do with it? Back on the head, healed it, and calmed the situation. That's not bad. And he tells everybody this is how this must go. So in Matthew 26, verse 52, hey, put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to them, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? Even if you don't know it right today because you've forgotten what the word legion means, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. Verse 54, but how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say, it has to happen this way, boys? Has to go like this. And he's talking to everybody, unruly mob and his disciples. Verse 55, in that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, am I leading a rebellion that you have to come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you didn't arrest me. But this has to all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled. And then what do the disciples do? Bye. I'm out of here. See ya. They all deserted him and fled. They didn't meander away. They didn't blend, melt into the underbrush and never saw them again. They fled. They ran. Enough. We're out of here. And so then Jesus is taken before the Sanhedrin, a ruling group of Jewish leaders, grilled, and he's taunted by them. He's beaten by them, especially when he tells them that he is, in fact, God with them. And then they beat him some more. This is a great day for him. Meanwhile, our man Peter, in verse 69, now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and here we go. And a servant girl came to him. Hey, I recognize you. You also were with Jesus of Galilee, she said. But what did he do? No, that's not true. He denied it before everybody who was around. I'm telling you, I don't know him. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Verse 71. And then he went out to the gateway where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, hey, this guy was with Jesus of Nazareth. And Nazareth, and what does he say? You on drugs. You're crazy. I didn't do it at all, no way. And he does it with an oath. I don't know the man, I promised. That's a good one. And then Matthew 26, verse 73. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, so those standing there, let's just share our hearts with you. Here we go. And they go up to Peter and they said, surely you're one of them. Your accent gives you away. Every way they could say this, they're saying it. Surely you're one of them. Your accent gives you away. Verse 74. And then he began to call down curses. And he swore to them, I do not know the man. I swear it. I don't. And immediately a rooster crowed. Imagine that moment. Jesus said it was going to happen, and it did. Verse 75, then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside, and he wept bitterly. How do you suppose Peter felt after those last few words, and wept bitterly? How did he feel? Loser, idiot, bad, stupid. Everything he thought he was, it proved he was not. Everything he proclaimed, I won't be a loser. I won't fall away. I'll stay with you. I'm a good guy. I'm good. He failed dismally. This is Peter. Think of the shame. Think what he carried that day. Think how it weighed. What if you had done that? Or what if you'd done something else and it's been weighing you down for a long time? The shame of it. I said I would never do that, but I did it. I said I would always be like this, but I wasn't. What do you do with that? Have you just managed it? Just trying to make things okay? I know how that is. I'll do that. But something is different. And something that Jesus said that's told to us in Luke 22, he says this to Peter before any of this has happened, before he's denied him, before he's done anything. He says this, Simon, Simon, which is another way of saying Peter's name, Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. So what is Jesus saying? There is something huge going on here. It's not just about you, Peter, in the uniqueness of our situation. It is huge. It's timeless. It's out of eternity this is happening. Satan has asked to sift you and all y'all like wheat. He knew it. Jesus knew. He was telling them the truth, telling Peter the truth. And then he says, I've prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And what does he say? This last sentence is one of my favorites in the Bible. When I first read it, it was just, he says, and when you have turned back. What does that mean initially? You're going to turn away. You're going to fail. You're going to blow it. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose a sense of who you are. But when you've turned back, because I'm going to see to it, I'm telling you this is what's going to happen, then do something for all your brothers. Strengthen your brothers. I don't know about you. I can tell you about me. I have failed plenty of times. And my tendency before I was a Christian, and I carried it along with me like a good, healthy bunch of baggage. I don't know how baggage can be healthy, but I had some good luggage, which was hide it. Manage it. Don't let anybody know how weak you are. Don't let them know your thoughts. Don't let them know about your failures. Manage it. And it was like I held these anchors to myself. I just pulled them all in. Like I was going to drown on the inside. Okay, yeah, it's better out in here than it is to be out there. Because if you knew what I've done or failed to do, you'd reject me. I don't want anybody to know. So I would manage it. I have a long history of managing my failure. That God has done this thing with me that He's convinced me of. I'm good with Him. And I want to, something happens to the Apostle Peter after his terrible failure. 3 times he's done this. Something happens to him. So let me just ask you a question. In the book of Acts, who's the first guy to stand up in the crowd and give an off-the-cuff sermon? A fisherman. It's Peter. There's a crowd gathered, over 100 people in the upper room, and he goes, hey, everybody, let me tell you what's happening. I got it. The Holy Spirit's been poured out on us. We're good. After all, we're good. We're not bad. We're good. And he's just, I get this. And then again and again, he does that through Acts chapters 2 and 4, up on his feet, preaching to the Jews, his own people, telling them, hey, I got good news for you. This is the best thing there is. Something has happened to the shameful one. He's changed. What happens even in Galatians? What about when he does something wrong? He goes and lives. It's all twisted. Paul comes and rebukes Peter in front of everybody and tells him, hey, you're a Jew, you live like a Gentile, then you're drawing away and you're going to go back to the Jews and you're going to put shame on them? Knock it off, Peter. And Peter goes, oh, yeah, I guess that wasn't good. Like he's okay with it now. Oh, thanks. Yeah. All right. And he goes on. Peter is okay with failure suddenly. The very thing he was supposed to do, get called to preach to the Jews, and he's failing in it. And Paul in his loving way goes, hey, stop it. You are making a mess of things in front of everybody. Not tactful, doesn't send him an email, just knock it off. And he, all right, yeah, okay, I'll stop that, thanks. Like he's become okay with correction. Guess who knows better than just about anybody what Jesus does with failure and shame? It's our boy Peter. Listen to what he's going to quote Isaiah 28:16. Let's read what he writes in 1 Peter, our God, verse 6. In Scripture it says, see, I lay a stone in Zion, a chosen and precious cornerstone, and the one who trusts in him will never be put to shame. This means never be put to open disgrace because of failure. That's what the word means. It'll never happen with me, ever. It's done, over with. There's no accounting of it anymore. All of it, you are free. Free of the fear of it, free of being found out. I have taken all of it from you. It's mine now. I am the sin and shame thief, and you cannot get it back. It's gone, whether you know it or not. Peter knew it. He knew, and he's telling them, this was the promise from the ages, and it's today fulfilled. I know it, and you can too, he's saying. And he said in verse 7, now to you who believe, this stone is precious, but to those who don't believe, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. In other words, y'all have been building something so hard. I'm Peter. I was building righteousness. I was building this whole thing where God would go, that's good stuff, better than everybody else. And it collapsed. I was building something and it collapsed. But I'm not rejecting what has been given to me as a gift. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. That's Jesus. a stone that causes people to stumble and a rock that makes them fall. They stumble because they disobey the message which God knew they would. Verse 9, but you, and I would say you, it's you. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood. It's you, a holy nation. We're spread out all over the place. There's no geographical boundaries anymore. We're a holy nation. We're located where, I would ask? In Him, in Jesus, in His body. That's where we're found. You are God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness, out of the world it once was, and you were a part of it. You've been taken out of Adam and out of that cosmos and brought into this whole new relationship with God in Him where all is well. He called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. It's not for God. It's, what's the word? Two-letter word. Of. It means you're of the very fabric now. He shared His life with you, so much so that the life you have, the one that God notes most, considers most real, is indistinguishable from His. Your life is hid with God in Christ. Why is that? Well, He didn't barricade it. Don't look behind the curtain. It's because He's taken out your deadness from the old world and given you a whole new life. It's His life in you. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you had received mercy. Listen to Peter. It's true for you. Maybe you haven't realized how good this righteousness, this gift of shamelessness is for you. Maybe you've been managing your failures. Maybe there's some subtle, I've done okay. That's where God wants to go with you, to get you to see the enormity of His grace and light where you have not yet. Where someplace in you, something you've done, something you've been afraid of bringing out to God, like it's your big failure, like He's going to go, yeah, that's yours. I'm not doing anything with that. Maybe it's you can't forgive someone. Maybe it's that you're just determined to get better, building your own thing, and God's going, I'm good. We're good. Could you just let me get in on that? That unforgiveness, that blindness, that thing. I'm thoroughly involved with you. Maybe that's what He's saying. My dad believed and received Jesus when he was 75. 75 years old. And I wanted to dance with my dad. I was at home, Sarah would tell you, he called me and said, I received Jesus today. And I was, why'd you do that? No kidding. What'd you do that for? And he said, well, it just seemed like the thing to do. I was at church. You were at church? Yeah, I was at church with your mother, and the guy was just saying stuff, and I went, whoa, hey, yeah, that's probably good. I believe. Huh. I didn't, but I do now. And I was dazzled. Fast forward a while, because he didn't have a whole lot of years after that, but up. And there was a time when my dad, who was marked by shame and failure, and he managed it. And I didn't want him to manage anymore. I wanted him to know there's no management with Jesus. You don't have to collect yourself together, tuck in your shirt and look good, put on manners with God. None of it. Zero. And my dad would and when I was 50, you ever have the talk from your dad about what are you going to do with the rest of when you grow up? He gave me that again when I was 50. And I'm feeling like I'm 12, 13. And he did it because in his eyes, he had failed. I was in the ministry. I didn't have a job, he thought. All I could tell him was, Dad, I think I'm doing it. I know you don't get what I'm doing. I know you don't. He had no way of accounting for it. But in his eyes, he had not succeeded enough with me. And he poured it out. I took it. And I was okay, actually. Well, because inside I knew this. You're wrong. And you can get rid of that burden as it's affecting you. Yeah. In your estimate of other people. Because it's bouncing back on you. Because in here, you're still holding shame and perceived failure. I want to offer you just time. I'm going to pray in a minute. And if your prayer would be anything like, I'm so done with shame. I don't want it anymore. The things I shouldn't have done, the things I did do, I don't want to hold it anymore. I don't want to protect it anymore. I'm so tired of it. It's become a weakness in me. I didn't even know it was. It's like I'm walking around with a flat tire, and I'm tired of it. A broken arm, and I'm tired of it. Would you tell Jesus that? And I can assure you that he'll have a way that's just unique between you and him. He'll have a way of giving you thoughts, if not today, tomorrow, and the next day, because he has that whole relationship thing. He's not in a hurry. Have you noticed that about him? I'm going to complain when I talk to him. Anyway, he will in some way get to you that is unique, and he'll speak to that. You can let me have that. You're just collecting garbage. It's done. I don't want you to carry it anymore.